Yeah, this is the preview for the Memphis Grizzlies for this upcoming season. Top storylines for this team. New coach, Dave Joager. He was assistant coach for a few years with Memphis, so he knows the system under Lionel Hollins. And he said he was going to tweak some things on what their approach is on offense because of their Western Conference Finals collapse. I think they was actually happy of getting there. I mean, they do have their championship aspirations, but getting there to the Western Conference and then when they played against the Spurs, I had them beating the Spurs last year, but it just showed that that team wasn't ready. I think Zach Randolph he had his issues. I think going up against defender bigger guys of Duncan and Tiago Splitter, which was which was huge in that series. Um, but also the emergence of Marc Gasol. He's a real great player, won Defensive Player of the Year last year, and he really helped them. He expanded his offensive game. I think he's actually a better offensive player than his brother Marc Gasol, but that's on a different it's a different conversation for something else. Okay, the core four. That's Mike Conley, Gasol, Zach Randolph, and Tony Allen. This is the core four that they're using right now. This is their identity for Memphis, the grit and grind team. Can they get it done without having a true superstar? That's the question. Um, the only team that really comes to the recent memory that's done that is the Detroit Pistons in 2004. Can they actually get it done? They got new management. There's Robert Parra. He says they can do it that way without getting a superstar. So we just really want to see how they could be able to do it with that core four. After they traded Rudy Gay last year, the only guy that really could score on his own, bringing in Mike Conley and Kofi Koufos. Kofi Koufos he's a reasonable big man. He's there, he can bang it, get rebounds. He probably score in the paint if they, be able to give it to him. So I think he's a good pickup. Bringing in Mike Miller from Miami. He's coming back home. He has best years here in Memphis. He knows the culture, the system, and what they do. So he should be able to help them on the perimeter, making knock down some shots because they really need help with perimeter shooting. That was the reason why they was losing to the Spurs anyway. You can't keep up with a team that's hitting threes where you can't answer back when your whole team is thinking about mostly on defense. Too much defense, not enough consistent offense. That's Memphis key. They are a great defensive team. I mean, one of the best. They're top three great defensive teams. They have great schemes in place. Um, but their trouble is scoring offensively consistent, and that's what's going to get it done today in this NBA. This is not the NBA of the '80s and even the 2000s where you can have some, and I mean the '90s where you can have it be a great defensive team and go far in the playoffs. Now you got to have a little combination of the both, because of how they have the new rules and everything, and how teams approach the game. So that's going to be one of their key issues. Can the new coach Joe Ager get these guys get a new offensive scheme in place, but not lose their defensive philosophy? Okay, with the loss of Lionel Hollins, can this team still be that same grit and grind team? Like I said earlier, yeah, Joe Ager, he knows the system. He was assistant coach, so he knows what's their makeup. He just want to switch some things on offense, but they have to stay with their grit and grind team, because I think the reason was the downfall of the Pistons. Even though the Pistons went to a few conference finals with Flip Saunders years back, if people remember, they had the same identity. They tweaked things on offense to be an offense, but I think they lost a little bit of their identity, and that affected them because when they went to the conference finals against the Heat in 2006, against the Cavs in '07, and the Pistons, in the Celtics in '08, they was a great offensive team, but they lost themselves so much on defense on what Larry Brown did, and he brought them to 2 consecutive NBA Finals. So if this team don't lose that identity, they should be able to be up there in the Western Conference. Small forward controversy: Tayshaun Prince and Quincy Pondexter. Tayshaun Prince, he had his issues with the system last year. That's just very evident. The guy was lost. When it was in the playoffs, he was lost. Um, if if he knew the system, I think well, and he could complement, I think they would have swept the Oklahoma City Thunder. But because he was losing himself, I think it was at times that he was struggling. He didn't really know what he was doing. He didn't know his place on the team. The defensive philosophy they did with a lot of the call outs and the reads, I think he was unfamiliar with it. And it showed in the games. People were saying, what the hell is Tayshaun Prince? Is he really done? And I'm like, no, he's not done. I mean, sometimes you got to play on instincts, but if you got a team with schemes, then it's going to be for any great player on the defensive end to fathom and find out. Okay, Quincy Pondexter, he's a scorer. He's came alive. He's been showing some consistency. Joe Ager says he really doesn't know what he's going to do at this point. Um, my thing would be keep Quincy Pondexter on the bench. They still got a little bit scoring on the bench, but I think you really need to have that. If you get Prince to follow that identity of the grit and grind system, then him playing with the Pistons all those years, it'll be able to benefit the team. And then having Pondex on the bench with Bayless, and Mike Miller, these guys, I think it will be able to help them in the team. When the starters come out, they'll be able to put some points there and help this team. Okay, I got them winning 54-28. That's a real great record because of the new coach. He's always been there, so I think they're gonna still keep that same identity and give them that same grit and grind, grit and grind games. It's gonna be ugly. It ain't gonna be nothing pretty. It's gonna be in the low 90s, some of the 80s. It's gonna be just real defensive grind basketball. Give it to Zebo. He scored. Gasol. But they're gonna get wins off that. They're gonna get a lot of good wins, and they should be a very formidable team in the Western Conference.